Good evening and welcome to tonight's Business Support and Digital Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Are there any apologies for absence? Can I sign a record of the meeting held?
Yeah, you need to look up.
Councillor P.
Thank you, Chair. Subbing for Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. Councillor Shoker.
Yeah, Chair, I'm subbing for Councillor Prenter.
Thank you. Okay, can I sign a record of the meeting held on the 18th of June as correct?
Agreed.
Are there any declarations of DPR or other interests or any declarations of whipping? That brings us on to agenda item 5, Procurement Strategy 2025-2030 Update Report. I'll ask Mike Kelly, Head of Category Management, to introduce the report. Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and evening all. Again, another year. Pleased to have before you the procurement strategy update for the year that's gone by. The appendix clearly outlines the objectives that we set last year and the progress that we've made and what's proposed for the year to come. If I was to focus on one of those objectives, without steering any form of direction, obviously, it's about the insourcing strategy, which is to come. And actually, that will really refocus kind of that view of how we procure our services, you know, consideration in the backdrop of LGR in terms of how we bring some of those maybe back in-house and those conversations that we have. But I'll hand it over to members for comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Any member? Councillor Hackwell.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Thanks for the report. It seems to me that in this report, it seems like you're giving up and not doing anything because of LGR. I mean, is that the real case? It says that, you know, you set out the objectives, but because we've got to amalgamate with LGR, we're going to sort of put ourselves on hold. Would you like to expand a bit on that so we can understand it?
Yeah, of course, and thanks for that. I think that's a valid point to raise. I think when going through and when drafting the procurement strategy, our targets remain optimistic and achievable. What I think it's also worth considering is the backdrop of LGR. And actually, whilst we can sit here and plan for the best possible outcomes, if we won't have the time to record or actually have any tangible benefit from the resource that we put into that, it's kind of that reflection. We can do other bits and pieces, potentially subject to comment, but it's what we would generate from that and actually the direction that the new administration may take as a result of LGR. So whilst I think it's alluded to in terms of LGR within the report, you're quite right. We haven't taken a step back. We're just mindful of what's to come and actually what we can benefit from collectively.
Thank you. Any other member? Councillor Brake.
John, thank you for the report. An awful lot of information there, but could you give us an understanding of where we stand with regard to encouraging potential providers with job opportunities for those people living in Medway and attracting business, additional business into Medway, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So when any new procurement activity starts, we work with the service, we work with colleagues, we look at other policies and strategies that support the organisation as a whole. The focal point for when we're trying to engage and when we're trying to build in these aspirational deliveries is part of that pre-market engagement. So we're talking to the suppliers, we're talking to prospective bidders. This is what we're looking for as an organisation. How can you support that as well? So it works two-way in terms of that communication. We then take that back offline, build those considerations into the specification before going out to the market. Part of that pre-market engagement as well is also looking at how our services can be delivered. So historically, we may look at specifications as an internally fully drafted document. What we're trying to do now is engage the market to ensure that the broadest spectrum of suppliers are interested in these opportunities and they're delivered in the best possible way.
Would you like to come back?
Yes, please. If I could just come back one additional point. In fact, in some regards, this is a follow-on from the point raised by Councillor Hagwell, in as much as that Medway's position was always one of ensuring that our providers understood that we were Medway, and it was Medway, Medway, and Medway. Although, in fairness, we would always seek to include our neighbouring areas. But with the LGR, maybe early days for you to give a response, but with LGR, are we going to be looking towards Medway, Gravesham and Dartford as being our group, where we would encourage local employment, or is it likely we would be forced, if I could use that expression in inverted commas, to share with the rest of Kent, which may be detrimental to Medway? What is your thoughts, or what is your planning on that, please?
Absolutely. As you could probably appreciate, that is a very tricky one to answer. What we are doing, and what I think it's worth highlighting, is how we solidify our current approach. So what the report mentions in terms of actions upcoming is our local supplier restriction. So we have discretion as to what that looks like. And that will be another report that comes through this forum and cabinet as well, to consider what do we want the current footprint to look like. That is subject to change, but we have control over that at present, and that will be coming shortly.
Thank you, Devon. Thank you, Mike. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Michael, thank you for the report. I just want to make one question, please. You're indicating positively that people are getting qualified around contract management. Do we have a target for this to being mandatory in certain roles within the council? And have you been talking to HR about increasing the ability to be trained in this very, very important area, especially going forward?
Yes, so in terms of the contract management training being delivered, it's hosted by the government's commercial function. And what that allows us to do is baseline our organisational approach with the national one in the public sector. What we're also exploring is how we kind of champion that within pockets of the organisation and how we kind of gauge that interest. What I can say, and arguably anecdotal, is we have seen a really good uptake and people have shown an actual interest. Often with training packages, as we can all appreciate, people go through them because they have to. What we've seen in this instance is people have a real interest and they're aspiring to deliver what's coming out of that as well, which has been positive.
Thank you very much for that update. I would encourage an explanation to people of the added benefit and the transferable skills it will give them. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shocker.
Yeah, so my question is just based on the verification. Do you understand you obviously use a social value calculator within your procurement? So are the social value commitments independently evidenced, and what percentage promised benefits are actually delivered from your experience?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, so regards to the social value element within procurement, I understand from some experience that you may use a social value calculator. Of those social value commitments, are they independently evidenced, and what percentage of the promised benefits are actually delivered from your experience?
Absolutely. So with the social value approach, what we have when we approach the market on a project-specific basis are the measures or the outcomes that we're looking for each individual project. Upon bid return, they're evaluated individually. So one of the lines, one of the aspirations would be local employment, supply chain opportunity, so on and so forth. And the explanation that supports that allows the contract managers to evidence what is being delivered. Should there be an issue or should there be a lack of delivery, then they're escalated through the internal DMTs, for example, and other remedial actions so we can intervene.
Do you count much of that?
Yep, so we have behind the scenes the metrics in terms of what individual line has been delivered. As a ballpark figure, the past couple of years it's been circa 30 million, which is predominantly around local employment and local supply chains as well. But I'm more than happy to share those charts after.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Just following up from Councillor Shocker, it'd be interesting to understand, I mean, how the social value targets are being protected during this transition period. And secondly, what level of procurement savings remain deliverable before vesting day?
Absolutely. So that, to some extent, dovetails into Councillor Brait's comments earlier as well. And there's a level of protectionism in terms of we're still delivering our contracts for Medway at this point in time. So our focus clearly is, you know, we are delivering our social value for Medway, and that's how it will continue to stay until there's a directive otherwise. In terms of the savings and what's achievable before vesting day, a lot of the procurement activity is cyclical in nature. So what we will see is we'll have some short-term and some long-term arrangements as well. So some of the more, we'll call them lucrative arrangements, which we may aspire to see savings in, might not appear between now and vesting day, for example. But what we continue to do and what can provide assurance upon is where an opportunity exists, we are working with the services to identify what we can and propose those within the options appraisal that will go to the internal governance boards.
Thank you, Mike. Councillor Hockwell.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just on the point of your resource light, or you claim that you're putting a lot of resource into LGR, therefore it's not worth doing other aspects of the role because LGR is consumer resource. One of the things that probably will be is contract management, and how are you prioritising which contracts to actually manage and look at and keep the KPIs running, because less people there are to do contract management. Some things fall down the cracks, no doubt. So what's your approach to make sure you're still keeping on top of contract management?
Absolutely. So when we look at the LGR resources, the impression within the appendix isn't we're overly focusing on LGR in terms of resources, but actually if we put the effort into some of those targets now, the time it would take to get an outcome might exceed vesting day. So actually, we need to get something out of what we put in, for example, and we still are doing that. But in terms of prioritising and managing the most important contracts, in terms of that contract management training, it's mandatory that anyone with a high risk procurement activity conducts that procurement management training. Before they go out to the market, they also have to pre-populate what contract management looks like. What reviews are they going to do, when they're going to do it, what the KPIs look like, what the attainment levels are, and what they're going to do if they're not performing. What may have happened previously is those pre-considerations weren't taken when they should have, and therefore the management of the contract became extremely difficult. So that workload happens up front to ensure it pans out.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Councillor Hockwell. I don't have any other member. Vice Chair, Councillor Jones.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm working on the assumption the clerk will have recorded all the comments that have been made. So the only thing to formally move is that the committee is recommended to note the Year 1 update within Appendix A and to provide comments to Cabinet. I so move.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Councillor Brake. Is it agreed? Thank you. Thank you, Mike. That brings us on to agenda item 6, which is the local government reorganization. I will ask Phil Watts, Chief Operating Officer, to introduce the report. Phil.
Thank you, Chair. I won't say too much by way of introduction, as the report largely covers the same ground that that you would have been presented with at the all-member briefing that was undertaken a few weeks ago. But it covers broadly 4 areas. It outlines the decision that the government has made about LGR. It talks a little bit about the governance steps and stages that will be involved up to vesting day. It talks a little bit about warding arrangements, and it talks about the programme management approach. I will try and answer any questions that you might have on this report, but that's all I want to say by way of introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Councillor MacDonald.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm not going to do a point. It's not a point of information, I suppose, because I can just speak anyway and ask you the question here. But I just want to be clear on this item, and Phil, this might help you as well, because we've had loads of briefings just recently. We had a briefing in here. There's some of us that are on the working group as well, where we had the briefing before the briefing. And I just want to make sure, like Councillor Ackroyd was saying, that if this item is coming back regularly, that's fine. And if it's pertinent to certain issues, that's really good too. But we're not going to debate the whole LGR thing again tonight, are we? Because we've already done all of that. Well, we can if you want, Phil. But I mean, I just want to be clear. There are other items following. Steve, it's for you, really, Chair. I think we asked for it to come on here, and it's important. It's on one of the committees, definitely. But I don't want it. You don't want it to be just a stream constantly when we've still got to look at all the other things that are happening from business support, including housing that's coming on here as well. So I suppose it was just a point of hopefully, Chair, we're not going to be debating the whole LGR thing again tonight, because it's up to members, but we've already been here just over a week ago and had a whole briefing and PowerPoint and everything else. And you like me, Chair, are on that group as well. So.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. As you say, it's up to member. Thank you. Councillor Hackwell.
Just to follow up, I agree. I think we asked for it to come to overview screens so everybody's aware, more as a read report rather than a debate in a report. So I think if we can all agree to regard it like that, it's a report to read on our overview and scrutiny report rather than debate it.
Thank you, Councillor Hackwell. Councillor Finch.
Thank you, Chair. Just going back on what Councillor MacDonald said, could we not debate what's actually in the report then, or lack of information in the report, and maybe going forward decide what we do want to see in the report? Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, obviously, at the pre-agenda meeting, these are things we could bring forward with regards to what we want to see in the report and what we want to debate. As clearly indicated and alluded to, it is a report for information at this stage. And obviously for member to feel free to ask any question they wish to ask the Chief Operating Officer. Any question? Councillor MacDonald.
And just adding on to what you just said there, Chair, I think the tool to be used properly. So we're going to be talking about every item's going to be mentioned LGR in it, isn't it? We're going like we did just the last one. I suppose just making sure it is updated and it's a correct tool that we use properly at this important meeting. You know, that's why it's under business support, right?
Thank you, Councillor Finch.
So, as this is a business support meeting as well, there's a very lack of digital or data in this report. Could we not expand on that? If we just don't want to talk about LGR, let's talk about things that are relevant.
Phil, would you like to respond?
Yeah. So when you say digital and data, do you mean data about transition? Yeah, and I think the point is it's at an early stage. So I think members have got the point that this is an information item, and when I invited questions, it was questions of clarification. If there's anything in there around the process that people don't understand. I'll try and explain some of that. As the transitional work continues in the run up to LGR, then yes, more of that information will be reflected in these reports. But at the moment, we're just setting the ground rules. The decision's been made. We've set the we're clarifying what the governance is, and we've talked about SCO and that sort of thing in here, the warding arrangements, and then set out what programme management's going to look like. But future reports will update you on whatever's relevant at the time.
Thank you, Phil. Well, I have a question, and Phil, and that's around the SIPFA Prudential Code, which requires authority to ensure that decisions are affordable, prudent, and sustainable. So can you please explain how the financial assumptions underpinning LGR have been tested against those three principles, including the treatment of transition cost, reserves, borrowing requirements, delivery risk, and the achievement of forecast savings?
Okay, this answer is not going to be satisfactory to you at this stage, but this is obviously a major work stream as part of the transition to LGR. So, the Kent Finance Officers Group are part of the group that's looking at this this particular work stream. We'll be getting consultants in to model what the funding looks like for the new authorities. We'll have to completely refresh the business case. So we've got some initial work done by a strategic partner on the financial business case, which highlighted a massive bill associated with transition. There's no doubt in that. We've struggled to get clarity from the government as to how that they expect us to fund that, but I think that the view is that it will be funded through borrowing approvals as the local government reorganisation was funded, if you go back 28 years. Same principle, the authorities, the successor authorities will be given borrowing approvals to fund those transition costs that they'll have to repay over a period of time. But yeah, I can't give you a figure at this stage. I can't tell you the payback period at this stage because we've got to refresh the business case.
So I mean, an idea with regards to timescale on when some sort of modeling will be complete, so members can be able to probe some of these queries.
I mean, this is part of, now that we've got the decision, this will be the work that's taking place between now and setting a budget for the new local authorities, which will follow a similar timeline. So by February 2028, we'll need to have set a budget for the new authorities, or four budgets for the four new authorities.
Thank you. Councillor Howell.
Thank you, Chair. Just to follow up on that, I mean, you mentioned in the report that we've got seven, what do they call them, 7 activity groups, and there's going to be 40 to 45 individual service work streams, which I guess is where the detailed work comes out. Will we get our, what I'd like to see in our future reports is the activity of those work streams so that we can understand, you know, just a one line or a couple of line summary of each work stream in the report to say we've met and we've decided that, you know, whether it be IT or, you know, we have 3 separate different IT systems that will never merge, and so we'll have to build a new, or whatever the outcomes are of those work streams, just build some tables so we can understand what's going on with LGR. And that report probably should be the same for every overview and scrutiny, I guess.
Thank you, Councillor Howard. Phil, would you like to respond?
So in terms of those work streams, the conversations that I've been party to, and the programme management office that's organised at a county level, is explained that those work streams, they haven't yet determined at what level those work streams are going to operate. So some will be at a county-wide level, some will be at a kind of a new unitary level. So it would just be those kind of 4 authorities that are involved in that working on, and some will be at an individual predecessor authority level. I suppose when we're producing this report going forward, we'll need to determine what's pertinent for the committee to hear about at that time. But
I guess so. I think my point is that even if the report's not identical, so each one of those 40 to 45 will be responsibility of one overview and scrutiny. So business, we might only get 6 lines. Children's and adults might get 23 lines. I don't know. That's the sort of thing I would be looking at. Yeah.
Thank you, Phil, and thank you for your question, Councillor Howard. Councillor MacDonald.
Yeah, just following on from that, even a dashboard, like whether it's green, whether it's, where it's at and whether it's going okay. And, you don't want to fall, because that's the working group, isn't it? It comes back to that. But you're right, you want a dashboard of where there might be blockages or where there might be issues with joining up, the budgets and etc. For example, if I say social care, or your worst nightmare when I say social care and children, but things like that. No, but things like that, I think it's important. If this overview and scrutiny is having that oversight, this one of all of it, something like that would be really helpful. And I know they did mention dashboards or something of some kind. I think it's a good idea.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Councillor Brake.
Thank you, Chair. Interesting comments that are coming out of this, albeit short and quite intimate discussion that has come from the paper presented. But it's occurred to me that Medway, as unitary authority, we're probably better placed than most people to understand what is required budget-wise, financially, across our patch, and also have an understanding of where our neighbours or our new partners are going to be in the same programme. How is this being picked up across the Kent-wide arrangement? And are Medway being pushed to one side, or are Medway very much a part of the bigger programme and the bigger discussions? Just want to get a feel, because you talk about, and it's been mentioned, adult social care, children's services, etc., which is obviously something that is very close and very dear to the hearts of the people living in Medway. And what we don't want to see is all the good work that's been undertaken across Medway and all the improvements that have been made for Medway. These are the things we want to share, rather than have somebody sort of narrow things down so that we are not providing the same service, same good service that we provided over many, many years. And that, in fact, when you start to look at outside, you start looking at waste collection, the state of our roads, the good housekeeping across the towns, not to mention the many other areas, but just to give any thoughts.
3 of which have annual targets. So it's always difficult at Q1 when we set an annual target. We don't know until the end of the year whether we've hit it or not for the year. But it's important to say the member task group is looking at our performance reporting and risk. And this is the first iteration using the new in-house system, Nexa, that we've built bespoke. So this is the first version. And then from here, we'll be using the member task group. There'll be a survey to members to get feedback on what you'd like to see from the data, what kind of information that you'd like to have access to. And then through the member task group, we will look to build that up for future iterations. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Paul. Any member? Thank you, Councillor Field.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Paul, for the report. I just want to know, actually, the risk register's even changed since last week's Regeneration, Culture, Environment Committee, with climate change now being on our top live risks. I mean, it's clear this summer the impacts that we've seen of climate change here. And even though it was before I served on this council, I'm glad that Medway Council declared a climate emergency previously. I think it's very important that as a corporate body that we take our role of conserving the natural environment and ensuring that we reduce and mitigate our impacts on climate change here. And I think it's very important that this Medway Council recognises it. I'm glad to see that it's high on the list. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Field. Paul, would you like to respond?
Yeah, just on that point, within the report, and I've been involved in it, we've implemented new reporting, using it on SharePoint. We've got a dashboard report now for monitoring some of those key climate change risks.
Thank you. Councillor Huckwell.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report, Paul. And it's good to see that an in-house software report actually making it to this committee. And first look, it looks quite good. So, you said there's been the telephone calls. There was a spike of extra telephone calls about the waste management form. What testing was done with the public before that went live to create such large amount of calls? Because it obviously wasn't, there was problems with it from the public's point of view. I'd understand what the user testing was like to actually before it went live, because the public obviously reacted voted with their fingers on the dials. Also, one of the risks is insufficient budget funding, like SRO3B. What is the council's absolute, probably a question for Phil, what is the council's absolute worst case scenario if the MHCGL declines to grant EFS? Because it is an issue that you're already saying at Q1 we're going to need EFS to manage the year. So what's the worst case scenario if they don't? And recruitment still is a B2. And one of the reasons put in there is it's people are worried about going first in, last out and things like that. What are we doing to mitigate that if we end up with people that we can't recruit because of people aren't coming from Kent County Council because they don't want to join and be the last in, and redundancies came with the merger? Because at the end of the day, the reason for moving to unitary is to eliminate some roles by amalgamating authorities together. So by that very definition, there'll be less people supposedly in the new authorities than there are in the combined authorities today. So how are you mitigating against that and making sure we get the right people for the right jobs?
Thank you, Councillor Huckwell. Paul, would you like to respond?
So the teams do carry out user testing with the forms. In this particular instance, some of the issues were caused by a technical integration issue, which meant some of the calls weren't coming through. Fortunately, as we've always said, we want to be digital by default, but not digital only. So we had the opportunity for residents to call if those forms didn't work on that particular occasion. I understand the fault was rectified quite quickly.
Just 2,000 calls, you couldn't have been rectified that quickly, I wouldn't have thought.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Councillor. Phil, would you like to comment?
So your other two questions, worst case if EFS is not forthcoming. All right, basically I would have to then discuss with the administration and the management team what steps we take to try and address this, and so it would be voluntarily putting in place the kind of measures that one would put in place were there a Section 114 issued. So expenditure panels, basically all non-essential spend frozen, vacancies frozen. It would be that kind of thing. Now if the administration and management team elected not to do that voluntarily, that's the point at which I would issue a Section 114. As I've tried to explain a number of times at this meeting, Section 114 is the lever I pull if the organisation isn't doing what it needs to do. If we don't get EFS, then there's some steps that we need to take. If we don't take them, that's the point at which I issue a Section 114.
Thank you, Phil. Would you like to come back, Councillor Howell?
Yeah, so recruitment. Yes, we do have challenges with recruitment. In the run up to LGR, I can certainly talk from my experience. I'm already having these conversations with my colleagues in other local authorities, because there's something about, if we're all struggling to recruit these type of difficult to employ posts, then we look across the piece and share resources and maybe work together a bit more. And I've already started having some of those conversations around the finance team. I mean, I think fortunately Abby's last recruitment was successful. Yeah, so so we're not in that place yet, but that's the kind of conversation we'd start thinking about. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Brown.
One very quick question. I like the new dashboard, and having had it developed in-house is absolutely excellent. Is it easily expandable so that going forward with the opportunities that LGR brings, will it be easy for us to add more users, more, however it's expanded? I'm not a techie. Most people know chalk on a blackboard is probably where I'm at. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Paul, would you like to respond?
Yeah, the short answer is yeah. And we can have all the dashboards in one system and then control who has access to what. Already, so we've got the formal structures that Phil outlined earlier in the LGR discussions. Before we get to the Shadow Authority, I'm talking to my colleagues. We've got a meeting on the 3rd of September where we've done the desktop exercise where we've all shared what systems we use. The next question will be, right, to the member task group, because it's an annual target, we can't say whether the other three are going to achieve or not.
That might be a risk of not being
are 1.1. The committee is asked to consider the Q1 2026-27 progress of the performance indicators used to monitor progress of the Council's priorities, as set out in Appendix 1 to the report, which we have done. And 1.2, the committee is asked to note the strategic risk summary as set out in Appendix 2 to the report. I think that is all I have to move, Chair.
Is that seconded? Councillor MacDonald, is that agreed? Okay, that brings us on to item 8, which is the capital budget monitoring round 1, 2026-2027. I'll now ask the Chief Finance Officer, Abby Golf, to introduce the report. Abby.
Thank you. So this report presents the first round monitoring for the Council's capital budget for 26-27.
Chair, just a quick one, please, Phil.
For Business Support Department, the main area would be the data centre refurbishment, which has currently got a remaining £27,000 budget, and we are anticipating that to be delivered within that budget. happy to take any questions, but that is the main parts.
Thank you, Abby. Any member? Councillor Hockwell.
Thank you, Abby, for the report. A couple of questions. What, with borrowing making up about 71% of the capital budget, what's the interest in this high interest environment that we're likely to be paying on that 218 million that we're borrowing for capital? I don't understand children's and adults in the fact that they've got 105 thousand pounds to in their capital budget, and they're only expecting to spend 15 of it. What's the reason for this remaining in this year? I mean, what projects, unless it's things like the care home, I don't know where that comes out of, whether it's in children and adults, but things like that. Those two are due for the time being. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hockwell. Abby, would you like to respond?
Yeah, sure. So regarding the interest rates, we are actively reviewing that constantly throughout the year and monitoring that. I don't have the figures exactly as to what the repayment and the cost of that will be at the moment, but in terms of interest rates, they are increasing at the moment due to the economic situation. You know, anywhere between 4 to 5 and even 6%. So they are moving. But I can provide you with the details after this if required. And regarding the children's, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe that's part of this committee's discussions, but happy to take it offline if needed.
I'll just say because it's presented in the table. If you don't want me to discuss it, don't present it to me in the table.
Sorry, I can't hear you, Phil. Put your mic on because I can't hear what you're saying to the members.
Yeah, sorry. So the right officers aren't around the table to talk about this particular scheme. That's right. We would expect it to be discussed at CYP ONS.
It's here for context.
Thank you, Phil. Any member? Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I move the recommendations at page 63. The Business Support, Digital Overview and Scrutiny Committee is asked to note the results of the first round of capital budget monitoring for 2026-2027. Noted and moved.
Seconded by Councillor MacDonald. Is that agreed? Great. That brings us on to item 9, which is the revenue budget monitoring. I'll ask Chief Finance Officer Abby Gulf to introduce her report. Abby.
Thank you. So this sets out the revenue monitoring position for 26-27 at round 1. It provides an overview.
Sorry, Abby, could you just bring the mic nearer to you because I can't hear you properly.
So it provides an overview of the round 1 monitoring position. So overall for the council, it does present the 26.7 million after management actions. For Business Support Directorate particularly, we are forecasting 1.285 million overspend at round 1, with the most significant variance being the interest and financing. So under 5.5 within the report, you'll find more details about the interest and financing and how we've ended up in the position we are and the actions being taken to mitigate that across the department as a whole. So there's 1.65 million of management action that's been put forward, including 1.5 million which relates to vacancies, reviewing and reducing essential spend.
Thank you, Abby. Do we have any member? Well, just throw one out there then, Abby. Before a member can have confidence in the programs we've been discussing earlier, can you probably explain how the financial assumption in this report underpinning LGR in particular have been tested against SIPFA principle of affordability?
So I'd say generally we abide by all the SITFA codes, financial management codes, and are working with SITFA as part of the assurance review and other measures. So as part of that, there is regular engagement, and we test our assumptions on a regular basis as part of the in-year monitoring and continually as part of MTFO planning. So I think within that regular engagement, we'd take any feedback from SITFA and any concerns. I'm not sure if Phil would have anything more he'd want to add to that.
Yeah, Phil.
So can I just be clear? Your question is about the affordability of our budget, isn't it? Is that essentially what you asked?
Yeah, well, they've been tested. Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, this forecast is demonstrating that at the moment, not. We've got pressures coming in adult social care that are exceptional now, and that's why I'm in a position where I've had to start a conversation with MHCLG about exceptional financial support, because these pressures are not affordable within the cash envelope that we're working to. We've had that conversation at CMT. The Director of People, Director of Children and Adult Services, has said that she's in a position where she feels that the budget she's been given to deliver adult social care, she cannot deliver her service and meet her statutory responsibilities within that cash envelope, given the pressures that she's confronted with, which I won't go into a huge amount of detail here now, but that's what we're confronted with at the moment. So if that answers your question, is it affordable? Clearly the report is suggesting it's not.
I've got a couple of members who wants to come in. Councillor Peake and then Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have a question, just a request. Please don't be upset with this, but when officers speak, I'm Mutt and Jeff as it is, and the acoustic is so terrible. Can please everybody speak into the microphone? Because I wanted to be here, I couldn't hear anything that you just said, I'm afraid. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Would you like to reiterate for Councillor Peake and others who didn't hear you clearly?
In short, the Chairman's question was about whether
Sorry, that was my point of information, Chair. You asked about LGR and budgets. It wasn't about the current situation. And just to be clear, Chair, your question, which you read out, was about LGR, wasn't it? And affordability of LGR.
No,
and now we've moved over into. I just wanted to make sure that we were getting the Chair's question, because he mentioned LGR, but then we've gone into which is fine, into the budgeting system. Was that what you asked? The budgeting system as it is now, Chair?
Yes, the budget.
Fine. So not LGR as it is now.
The budget as it is, obviously, LGR around the corner. Yeah, because there'll be another budget. LGR, as Phil said earlier.
Yeah, sorry, that's how I interpreted the question. In the context of us approaching LGR, is our budget affordable? Now, I think in terms of Medway Council's budget and the pressures that we're seeing in adult social care, and this is what I responded, the director has said she cannot deliver her statutory responsibilities within the budget envelope she's been allocated for adult social care. And that's where the majority of that overspend comes from. You know, generally, every year we report a pressure at this stage, and then management action gets taken across all the directorates. Now, within most of the other directorates, we would expect that management action to take place and contain the pressures, and we'd get to somewhere close to a break even. But what we're being told by the director is that she cannot do that and deliver her statutory responsibilities. Now, that's the first time she's ever flagged that to me. That's the first year she's ever flagged that to me.
Thank you, Phil. Councillor MacDonald.
Yeah, just being clear on that, and thank you for that, Phil. To be clear, management action you always mention it every year. This is statutory functions of social care that she's talking about, statutory that we have to deliver to people in our community. So it's just to be clear, isn't it? It's that statutory part that, and I know there's been loads of calls for National to help and do stuff with that, because we're not the only council that's struggling with that statutory budget, are we?
Thank you. Councillor Huckwell.
Just to be clear, and sticking to business support, we're benefit payments reporting a 1.1 million favourable against their budget, so that's a good thing. And it says there that this is due to not being restricted by the 2011 LHA rates because we're putting them around. Could you just expand on that? Because I'm a bit ignorant on it, so I don't really understand what the acronyms mean.
So this is part. So when we acquired the temporary accommodation to provide for homelessness, part of that business case wasn't just that by providing it ourselves, the unit costs of providing temporary accommodation would come down. That's fairly marginal. The real benefit comes from the fact that because we're a registered provider, the subsidy regime is much more generous. So Gemma and the benefits team is collecting 100% of subsidy on folk in temporary accommodation, our own temporary accommodation, in a way that we don't collect 100% subsidy for some of the private sector stuff. So that's where that underspend has come from. I suppose what we you need to look at that in the context of the pressure on temporary accommodation, because that is part of the mitigation for that pressure. Does that make sense?
The subsidy is from where?
DWP. So we pay housing benefit and the DWP reimburse us, but we don't get 100% reimbursement on all subsidy that we pay.
Thank you, Phil, and thank you, Councillor Huckwell. Any other member? Councillor Jones, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I move the recommendation at page 67. The committee notes the results of the first round of revenue budget monitoring for 2026-27. The committee notes that Cabinet instructed the corporate management team to implement urgent actions to bring expenditure back within the budget agreed by full council. I so move.
Is that seconded? Councillor Brown, is that agreed? That brings us on to item 10, which is the work program. I'll ask Steve Dickens, Democratic Services Officer, to introduce the report. Steve.
Thank you, Chair. So members are asked to note the changes to the work programme and the work programme of the other committees. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Steve. Any member? Vice Chair.
I'd like to move the recommendations at page 73. A, the committee is asked to agree the provisional work programme at Appendix 1 to the report, and B, the committee is asked to note the work programmes of the other overview and scrutiny committees at Appendix 2 of the report. I move.
Is that seconded? Councillor Field, is that agreed? Thank you. And thank you to those viewing from home. That brings us to the end of tonight's deliberations. Thank you.